world. Welcome to another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible. And we're going to be starting a Miraculous Healing Series. And I'm so very excited to have my first guest, Lisa Manyon, who is, I'm just going to introduce her because she's so much more than this. Lisa Manyon is a business marketing architect and president of Right On Creative. She pioneered the value-based challenge solution invitation communication framework to create marketing messages with integrity by focusing on passion points. Her strategies are known to create million-dollar results. But the most important thing we're going to talk about today is that she is a cancer thriver who believes in healing with love. Lisa is available for book signings and readings of Spiritual Sugar and the #1 international best-selling book, The Silver Lining of Cancer. So without further ado, I'm going to just welcome Lisa Manyon with Spiritual Sugar. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I am so good, Dolores. It is such an honor to be here with you. I know we're both so passionate about healing with love and inspiring others to just take control of their health.
Absolutely, Lisa. And I think what's really interesting about your story is that, you've actually lived it. You've gone beyond surviving to actually thriving and knowing that, there's possibilities that are endless. And so I'm just going to have you start by just sharing your story a little bit with our audience.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll start with saying facing mortality is not for the faint of heart. And it is my deepest desire that people who are tuning in will be inspired to take control of their health now, so they do not actually have to experience a severe wake-up call like facing mortality that I did. So many years ago, I actually received a divine download that told me I was going to write a book called Spiritual Sugar about healing with love. And I had no idea what that meant because I didn't feel like I was a healed person. But of course, as a writer, I journaled about it and set it aside. And then fast forward 2 years later, I was going through major health issues and I didn't know exactly what was wrong at the time. And I was really sitting in inquiry. I was frightened a little bit because I was asked by a doctor if she thought I had cancer. And at that point, my mind was kind of blown because I thought, listen, I'm intuitive. I take pretty good care of myself. But a little thing like never going to medical school precludes me from giving that kind of diagnosis and knowing what was going on. So I was sitting in my office in inquiry and I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I got another message that said, hey, listen, don't worry, you're going to heal this with love. And I thought that sounds so much better than the alternative. Because at that point, I didn't know if I had cancer or not, but I remembered at that time my journal entry. I went back, I grabbed my journal, I read the entry, and I thought, oh my gosh, Spiritual Sugar, that's amazing. And I bought the domain. So in true fashion, not only was I, for me anyway, not only was I working on healing myself, but I started building out this brand at the same time because it was all divinely guided for me. I did find out that I had a rare and aggressive type of throat cancer. And I held fast to the idea that I could heal with love. And I was truly guided to what many people would call non-traditional healing modalities, which are actually ancient wisdom that we're now bringing to the forefront again, because we do have the ability to help heal ourselves, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think, and as we are in such a wonderful time of existence, is that we do have all the keys within ourselves to have complete health and wellness. Tell us some more.
Sure. So, there's lots of options when you're faced with cancer, and many people take a cancer diagnosis as a death sentence. And I refuse to do that, especially with a guided message saying I would heal it with love, because that sounded way better than the alternative. So I went all in and I changed the way that I ate. I changed my activity level. I changed everything. At the time of diagnosis, I was actually technically obese. I'm 5'7" and I was 189 pounds. And so for my frame, that was a lot of weight. I quit my 4 favorite food groups, which are not actually food groups: cold turkey, coffee, wine, chocolate, and cheese. And I eliminated all processed sugar. And I started walking every day and spending time in nature. And what happened is I actually, within a year's time, I released over 40 pounds and I became healthy. And many people say to me, oh my gosh, you got cancer. So you got sick and you lost weight. I said, no, I got healthy. So I lost weight.
Yeah.
I chose not to do chemo or radiation. I did do surgery, 2 surgeries, a transoral robotic surgery and a neck dissection. I was in the hospital on a feeding tube for 6 days. I was told I was going to have to leave with a feeding tube, and I refused to do that as well. I used the power of positive thinking and set my intentions that I would be able to eat some solid food so that I wouldn't have to deal with that when I got home. And kind of the rest is history. Last year in August, I received my official 5-year all clear from the medical industry. And in that same month, I wrote Spiritual Sugar and published it in November.
What a story and what a journey. And, I'm going to just say, it's so funny because I'm in Western medicine and, of course I blend a lot of different things with that. And of course people are going to think, oh, you got cancer, you lost all this weight. And it's like, no, sometimes all you need to do is retweak your diet, increase your activity level, and make better choices and the weight will come off. It doesn't mean that you're sick. It means that your body is realigning and coming into balance. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it really was, and I have in moderation reintroduced a few of my favorites. I like to have a glass of wine now and then, and I am a big fan of cheese, but I'm really particular about the types of foods that I eat. So the cheese that I choose to eat most often is actually a local cheese from Rogue Creamery here in our area because it's all organic. It's from grass-fed cows and I know their process and I know that there isn't a lot of weird dyes and things that are in cheese and other things like that. And the reason I bring this up is because so many people think they're eating healthy, but they're truly not. When you see an orange cheese in a store, it's because it's dyed orange. You need to look at what all of these ingredients are in your food. And if you're reading labels and you can't pronounce them, chances are it's not good for you. Another thing that I chose to do is stop really doing a whole lot of dairy products. And I use an oat milk, but it's an organic oat milk. And you want to check the labels of those things as well, because in many of these different kinds of nut milks, there's something called carrageenan, which causes cancer.
Oh, wow.
So if we don't look at the labels and if we don't really know what we're fueling our body with, it could be labeled organic and good for you, but still have these items that are not good for you in them. So I'm a big fan of checking your labels and eating just real food. Don't do the processed food.
And that is so true because, a lot of times we just go on automatic and we just grab for things and we aren't really being mindful as to what the label says or, if this is a healthy substitution. Sometimes, when we look at a lot of the fat-free or sugar-free type of foods, just for an example, I mean, if you look at what the label, what's in there, a lot of the sugar-free stuff has a lot of chemicals, and sometimes those chemicals aren't the best things for us. They actually have been known sometimes to create health conditions for people. Yeah.
It's absolutely true. And I've just been really delighted at the feedback I'm getting from the book. And I'm honored that Dr. Joe Vitale wrote the foreword and that Neil Donald Walsh wrote the afterword. And what I think is so interesting about that is many years ago when I watched the movie The Secret, I had no idea that there was something called the law of attraction because I naturally manifested things and set intentions to do things. And then I found out, oh, there's actually a title for this and it's a thing. And then, fast forward to last year and these two icons from that movie they're the bookends of my book in the form of a foreword and an afterword. And I'm just honored and blessed to have so much support around the book. I'm doing all kinds of book signings and I did publish independently. And many people said, well, you won't be in bookstores. Well, I'm already online at Barnes and Noble.
Cool.
And I think Target and Walmart even, which is interesting. But I'm also a big proponent of making sure that we support our independent bookstores. So I am in independent bookstores as well, and I'm going to be doing some book signings at Barnes and Noble and local bookstores. So there's all kinds of ways that this love letter to humanity, which is truly what this book is getting
Mm-hmm.
out into the world. And the feedback that I'm getting in the form of reviews, it just touches my heart, because I want people just to commit to themselves and to really slow down and look at, how can we redefine our relationships with ourselves, our health, and our wealth, because those are truly the riches in life.
Oh, without a doubt. And, this kind of segues into something else that I always tell the people that I work with and people that I come across is that, the longest relationship you're ever going to have in your life is the one you have with yourself. Yet, how often are we unkind? We don't feed it and nurture it. We are just sometimes downright mean, and we bully it. And it's just like, it's time to change that whole perception and make it okay to be your best friend without really relying on something on the outside to validate us for who we truly are.
It all does start within. I mean, it took a lot of meditation and prayer and all kinds of things for me to really tap into what I needed to do and to be able to listen to the guidance that I was receiving. Because if we listened to everything else outside of us, I mean, if I would have rolled into the fear as opposed to deciding to heal with love, it would have been a very different outcome.
Without a doubt. And, this is the one thing that I find very interesting, Lisa, is that in the medical profession, oftentimes when you go visit a healthcare practitioner, they sometimes are projecting a lot of their insecurities or fears around what you may have when you don't even have it, but yet they project that onto you. And you're wise enough so that you have a sense of who you are. For those people who don't have a sense of who they are, they automatically take this on as their truth. And guess what? If they don't have it, they create it for themselves. I've witnessed this. And this is something that needs to shift.
It's so true. And, interestingly enough, when I went through my entire journey, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before, I
Mm-hmm.
was really blessed to find a book written by Dr. Kelly Turner called Radical Remission, which was a big part of my healing journey.
Cool.
And she identified core areas that people were focusing on in order for them to become healthy. And when she first started noticing these things, she was actually, I believe she was a cancer counselor, and people were saying it was spontaneous remission, and she said it's just not spontaneous, it's got to be something else. So she actually went back and got her PhD in cancer research, studied, wrote the book. She's now doing documentaries and things like that about it, and was able to identify what people were doing to turn their health around. And they were all really surprisingly didn't have anything to do with Western medicine, quite frankly. So that's another recommendation that I make. And I'm super honored because just this past week, in the Radical Remission Project newsletter, Spiritual Sugar was featured as recommended reading.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's just
Thanks.
amazing. Good for you.
Yeah, it really blew my mind, and I just think her book is a huge resource. Of course, you have a book on healing as well, which I love and have, and I think that the more we equip ourselves with the information that we need to become healthier and to become whole, and to give our bodies permission to heal instead of
Absolutely.
rolling into fear, we're going to be healthier.
I totally, you've said it. You couldn't have said it better than what you just did. And what I find so interesting in this day and age is that so many things are changing rapidly. We're witnessing things crumbling before our eyes, especially like Western, I'm in Western medicine, so I could speak from that. It's just like the way that we are doing things is going to look a lot different in the next 5 years than what is happening presently, because there's just so much that is just being opened up, and people are ready to hear this right now. They're realizing that sometimes that they're just not getting the answers that they need, and they've given their power away sometimes to something outside of themselves instead of stepping into their power and embracing that. So I think the timing is perfect and people are ready to hear what needs to be shared. So thank you for doing that. And I have somebody who said a chat here. Somebody, Anne Dunette, I hope I pronounced that right. She said she started to add organic grass-fed milk into her diet. Kudos to you, Anne. That's good. Keep reading those labels. It's important. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to say, I just want to touch on Western medicine for a little bit. Just because I use some other alternative modalities doesn't mean that I am opposed to Western medicine at all. I would not have chosen a different surgeon, a different ENT, any of that. It's just important that we educate ourselves on what's possible. And what I love about what's unfolding right now in the whole Western medicine realm is that more and more facilities and hospitals are beginning to bring in different modalities that in the past would not have been brought in, especially for their own staff to amplify their health. So sound healing is being brought in. Some essential oils are being brought in. There are studies on PubMed that are scientific studies for anyone who's questioning. And if you like to geek out on information like that, like I do, you can dig in and check it out. Not many people do, but I had to learn to be a researcher and also an advocate for my own wellness.
absolutely. And, I want to reiterate a couple things too. It's not a this or that, okay? We, you know, Western medicine and all these alternative processes are all necessary. It's like by themselves, they're good. But when you start combining things together, they're very synergistic. Like for you, Lisa, maybe what it was important was to do some alternative healing, maybe look at your diet, maybe a little Western medicine. For me, with some things that I'm having, maybe it's acupuncture and herbal remedies and, um, Oriental medicine. What's beautiful about this is that everything is good by itself, but when you start combining things, there's like the 1+1=3 theory. They're very synergistic. They work better together than by themselves. And I also think since there's so many different possibilities, that it's so important for each of us individually to check in with self and then go where we are being led and trust that, because that is like your navigation system that's guiding you to your right next step. And it may not look the same for the person sitting next to you or another family member, but this is for yourself. So Lisa, carry on some more.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I'm so glad you said that, because so many people have come to me and said, Lisa, we want your recipe. How did you heal? And I said, oh, no, I'm not giving anybody a recipe. That would be negligent. I can share what I did, but the thing that people need to realize is that every person, every body is different. Every type of cancer and ailment is different. And if there was a one size fits all cure, it would be here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely true. Well said. Well
yeah.
said.
So when I wrote the book and I was working with a woman that was coaching me on some of the book process, because that's a process in itself, she really thought it should be spiritual sugar in the subtitle, the divine ingredients to heal yourself with love. And I said, absolutely not. It
Yeah,
can be the divine ingredients and people can then create their own recipe. But it would be
absolutely.
negligent for me to say, do what I did and you're going to be fine, because I can't guarantee that. And there was no guarantee for me either. I just had
Right.
deep faith and also mindset. The mindset is huge. I have a very dear girlfriend who recently went through her own cancer journey. She chose to do all Western medicine, and she had an absolute, ironclad, fierce mindset that she was going to heal, and she's totally fine. And she didn't even have the same side effects that most people have from chemo or radiation.
Yeah. So, I think we could surmise here is that it's not a one-stop shop. We're all individual. We all have different bodies and things that are happening within us. And our physical shell is just the tip of the iceberg of all the deeper stuff of how we've coped with stuff, how we deal with our feelings, if we feel at all, if we're connected to ourselves or not. But all of that goes into play as to creating the physical condition. And sometimes by just sitting with self and working on self and doing our inner work, this is a definite, a foundational piece that I think is a necessity. It's not optional.
I agree 100%. And that's why I'm so excited about my book, because I really want this to be a tool for people to recommit to themselves. You know, when you go through it, you're going to learn about my awakening. You're going to learn about spiritual tools. I outline over 40 different modalities, supposedly non-traditional modalities, but the really ancient wisdom. And then, of course, there's 7 spiritual sugar principles that I encourage people to look at and how they can really embody those and create their own spiritual practices and wellness plan.
All right. Well, Lisa, I'm going to have to wrap this up, but thank you so very much for being part of our premier Miraculous Healing Series. And, just share some parting wisdom to our audience as we conclude here.
Just take good care of yourself. Really take a look at what you're fueling your soul and your cells with, because it matters.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you. And you could reach out to her at her website, spiritualsugar.com. She's an author, a speaker. And if you have any questions or insights or anything you'd like to share with her, please reach out to her and definitely purchase her book, because it's definitely worth a read. And so, Lisa, thank you so much. And for those of you still on the line here, I just invite you to, if you're wanting to support the show, is to sign up on YouTube and become a subscriber. I would greatly appreciate that. And here is the link for that. It's at Dr. Dolores Fazzino. And stay tuned for our next episode, where we're going to be talking about self-respect. So I'm signing off for now. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.